about life in three horizons. Three horizons of human experience. A Draash inspired by Parashat Vayigash. Sometimes we rightly notice that we look at life differently than Bible characters. Other times we wrongly assume that the people in the Bible saw things just the same as we do, but without the Wi-Fi. Today, I want to examine the Bible's viewpoint concerning three horizons. And by the end of this, some of us will be looking at life from an entirely different perspective. Two of these horizons surface in today's Parashat, which is why I thought to create this Draash. It was a modification of something I taught some years ago, but this is entirely different than what I taught. In today's Parashat, after Yaakov has learned that his son Yosef is alive after all, during his long journey from Canaan to Egypt for their reunion, he has a vision from God. But let me pause. The first horizon is when he hears that his son is alive. And the first horizon is what we might call a womb to tomb, cradle to the grave horizon. It's life in space-time, in the space-time continuum. When he hears that his son is alive, it's part of human experience, from womb to the tomb, cradle to the grave experience. But then he has a vision, as we read today in chapter 46, he has a vision at night. And Adonai calls to him, Yaakov, Yaakov, and he answers, Hineni, here I am. And he said, I am God, the God of your ancestors, the God of your father. Don't be afraid to go down to Egypt. It is there that I will make you into a great nation. Not only will I go down with you to Egypt, in this womb to the tomb, cradle to the grave, life and space-time continuum, not only will I go down with you to Egypt, but I will also bring you back here again after Yosef has closed your eyes. This is interesting. God says he will bring Jacob back to Egypt after Yosef has closed his eyes. So he's talking about Yosef somehow having an existence beyond death. And that's the second horizon. Yaakov and the people of his time had an unclear and rudimentary but real view of a second horizon beyond life as we know it, that is, womb to tomb, cradle to the grave, life in the space-time continuum. But what God is saying is that in some sense, even after death, Yaakov would still be Yaakov. Even after death, God would still be dealing with Yaakov as Yaakov, or by his other name, Yisrael. This is the second horizon. So we could call this post-mortem experience. It's a part of what's also called the intermediate state. That's the term is used theologically. This is a very interesting bunch of concepts. The patriarchs, the matriarchs, conceived of their life being on earth, but also having some sort of continuity after physical death. As God tells Yaakov, I will bring you back here again after Yosef has closed your eyes. He's talking about Yaakov's bones, but still Yaakov, it's not just I'll bring your bones back, but I'll bring you back. So that connotes a kind of a different than our kind of boundary of what, when you're dead, you're dead. Yaakov knows he is to die soon. He's 130 years old, but he's not freaked out because despite the very limited information available to him, he believes that after his death, there is some sort of God-ordained continuity. Death is not a full stop. So let's summarize so far. Yaakov has a two-horizon perspective about life. His lifespan on earth is the first horizon, womb to the tomb, cradle to the grave, etc., etc. But there is more. There's a second horizon, what I'm calling here post-mortem experience. Now, why do I call it that? Because in Torah and in most of the Tanakh, this second horizon is called Sheol. Now, Sheol was a place which was only where only a faint reflection of ourself remains. It's kind of a half-life. It is a place where we are much less alive than we were on earth. In some of the passages, and you read in Tanakh about it, it talks about Sheol like this: you're less alive in Sheol than you were when you were on the earth. You're less alive, not more. Bible scholar Philip Johnston notes that of the 34 times Tanakh mentions Sheol, it refers to human destiny, but 25 of these times are linked directly to the fate of the ungodly. And in 7 of these references, the righteous contemplate descent into Sheol. But it's not a happy place to go, generally, but consider our recent Parashat, our Torah readings. Yaakov envisages going down to Sheol in sorrow when he first hears of the death of Joseph. Significantly, in this week's reading, when he hears that Joseph is alive, Yaakov declares himself ready for death, and there is no mention of Sheol. Going to Sheol, then, always had the connotation of coming to a bad end, an existence that is less than the life that we have known, and not more. Less than the life we have known, and not more. Sheol is the pessimist's expectation. If you look over on the right side of the yellow print on my chart that I made here for you, it's seen negatively. Sheol is also called Hades in the New Testament. It's not hell. Hades is not hell. Sheol and Hades are the intermediate state. It's what happens directly after death, but it's not our final destination. But there's also a view of a positive state of the positive version of the intermediate state. You might even say Sheol and Hades are the pessimist view, and the positive view, the intermediate state, is called paradise, and sometimes it's also called heaven. This is what Yeshua promises to the thief on the cross, when he said to him, "Amen, I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise." But just as Sheol is an intermediate place, not a final destination, so paradise, or Gan Eden, is not the final destination. Together with Sheol, it's not the final destination. Sheol is the intermediate state for the unredeemed, and paradise is the intermediate state for the redeemed. It's the second horizon. Theologian N.T. Wright says that about this, that when we go to heaven after we die, which is the intermediate state, it's not our final destination. It's like a VIP room at an airport where you wait to go to your final destination. Now, it may be surprising to you, but this is how the Bible talks about it. Let's go on. There is a third horizon, and it's what follows the intermediate state. It's where we go from there. It's where we go after we leave the VIP room. For the unredeemed, the final destination is Gehenna. And Gehenna is a Greek version of Gehinnom, the valley of the sons of Hinnom. It was a place where garbage was burned outside of Jerusalem. There was an everlasting fire in this fire pit. That was Gehenna. Not a very pretty picture that Yeshua uses to portray this final state of the unredeemed. This is the third horizon, the final destination of the occupants of Sheol, the most pessimistic of journey's ends. But there's a positive version too. The optimistic ending, awaiting the resurrection of the righteous, is resurrection life in the new heavens and the new earth. That is our final destination, the new heavens and the new earth. At least some of the prophets began to speak of this third horizon, which we might call life after post-mortem existence, or even life after death. I wouldn't call it that though. I just call it life after mere existence. The book of Job says this: "As for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that at the last he will take his stand on the earth, and even after my skin is destroyed, yet in my flesh shall I see God, whom I myself shall behold, and whom my eyes will see, and not another." So the prophets go beyond the Torah, beyond talking about the second horizon, and they begin to talk about the third horizon and about the positive end, which Job speaks of. At the end, I will stand on the earth, in my flesh shall I see God. So this intermediate, this ultimate state, this third horizon, is resurrected life in the new heavens and the new earth. The book of Isaiah says it this way, chapter 26, "Their corpses will rise, you who lie in the dust, awake and shout for joy, for your dew is the dew of the dawn, and the earth will give birth to the departed spirits." There's a lot I could say about this. Let me just say a little bit more, and we may have to do a follow-up on this next week, because there's an awful lot of content I can give that fleshes out this model, which I think, it's the first time I've ever made a study of these things. And I think it's fascinating. It puts things in certain places, and all of a sudden you read about certain texts and things click in to this model, and it's very helpful. John Levinson of Harvard University teaches Hebrew Bible. He notes about bringing life to dry bones in Ezekiel 37. He says this refers to the restoration of the nation, but nevertheless he sees it as a metaphor, as a significant metaphor presenting Israel's future hope in terms of the resurrection of those long dead. So those who say the New Testament, the Old Testament doesn't talk about this are absolutely wrong. He further points to Isaiah 53, which is sometimes in some ways parallel to Daniel chapter 12, verse 3. In Daniel chapter 12, it says that the righteous and the unrighteous dead will arise at the last days, and those who bring many to righteousness will shine as the stars of heaven. It talks about a resurrection of the just and the unjust. And Levinson says that reminds us of Isaiah 53, where he says this. Let me read you this. He says, "The resurrection of those described as the wise in Daniel, who will lead many to righteousness, is a parallel to the Isaiah 53 section, where God's suffering servant, whom we regard to be Yeshua, is also described as wise, Isaiah 52:13, and he too will cause many to be righteous." There's the implication that the servant, and he's saying this is a man who does not believe in Yeshua, there's an implication that the suffering servant of Isaiah 53 is raised from the dead, and that after being cut off from the land of the living, verse 8, yet he will see his offspring and prolong his days. Thus, in Levinson's view, the wise in Daniel 12 have taken on the identity of the servant, afflicted and mocked in life, vindicated and exalted after death. So he's saying that the righteous are going to imitate the life pattern of the suffering servant. Well, wow, that's really close to the way we would say it, that we ourselves, we take up our cross and follow Yeshua. We repeat in our lives some reflection of the path of suffering and exaltation that he experienced. However, let's not lose the essential character of the third horizon. It is resurrection life, life beyond mere post third chance, life beyond mere post-mortem experience, existence. I call post-mortem existence because Sheol is only existence. Fortunately, in paradise, it's a different story. But the others in the second horizon, it's not really worth being called life. It's only a pale reflection of what life is supposed to be. And what we're looking for is the ultimate goal is life in the age to come, the new heavens and the new earth where righteousness dwells. Now, I've got a few more pages of this, but I think I've given you enough to think about right now. But I'll show you how some of the quotes that we find in the Bible all of a sudden fit in with this. Let me look for just something about Paul rather. Paul says, when he's writing to Philippians, he talks about the horizons that he lives in. The question we want to deal with at the end of this study is this one. What horizons will we keep in mind as we live our life in the first horizon? Are we living for this life only? That's the fool from the parable, Yeshua's parable of the rich fool. He says, I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry. I'm going to build barns and build bigger barns. And Yeshua says he's a fool because he's not rich towards God. So he's living only in the first horizon. He's not living for the third horizon. He's not living even for paradise in the second horizon, which is the waiting room for the third horizon. He's living only for this life. The question is, what do we keep in mind? It is better to live with both the first and second horizons in view, at least. Paul says this when he's writing to the Philippians. He says, to me, life in the Messiah, that is the first horizon, life is in the Messiah, and death is gain. That's the second horizon, and the third horizon, right? He's waiting for. The third horizon doesn't come until the resurrection of the dead. So at least he's living for the second horizon, for life in paradise. But if by living on in the body I can do fruitful work in the first horizon, then I don't know which to choose. I'm caught in a dilemma. My desire is to go off and be with the Messiah. That is far better. That is the second horizon, because he won't get to the third horizon until the resurrection of the dead. And he also says that he is working so that if by any chance he might attain to the resurrection of the dead. So Paul lived with the second horizon and the third horizon in view. He wanted to go and be with Messiah after death, that's paradise or heaven, but he also wanted to attain to the resurrection of the dead, that's the third horizon. And so, without saying much more, because we've had a long time together, I want to ask you, what horizons do you keep in mind as you live your life here in the space-time continuum, in the womb to tomb, cradle to the grave existence? Let's always think beyond that. There is something waiting for us, which Paul says, I hold that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed to us. He says, eye has not seen, ear has not heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man, the things that God has prepared for those who love him. So that's certainly the positive side of the second horizon. And it's also ultimately the new heavens and the new earth. Let's keep these horizons in view and live well. Shabbat Shalom.